If you make an enemy out of a crocodile, you might want to move houses, because science shows these ancient predators can hold a grudge longer than your ex. For over 200 million years, crocodiles have ruled the waterways of our planet, outliving the dinosaurs, surviving mass extinctions, and witnesses to the rise and fall of countless species. But their survival is not merely a product of brute strength or armor-plated skin. It is driven by a highly sophisticated, deeply underrated evolutionary weapon, a brain designed to remember, to adapt, and to never forget a threat.
To understand the memory of a crocodile, we must first look at their evolutionary blueprint. While mammals were still tiny, rodent-like creatures scurrying in the shadows, crocodilians had already perfected their physical design. Because their anatomy was so perfectly adapted to their ecological niche, evolution essentially hit the pause button. For 200 million years, their physical structure remained virtually unchanged. But what about their minds? As we dive deeper into their cognitive world, we discover that their brains are not primitive relics, but highly specialized survival computers.
The term reptilian brain is often used in psychology to describe the most primitive, instinctual parts of the human mind, responsible for fight or flight responses. In an actual crocodile, this brain structure is a masterpiece of efficiency. It lacks the massive, convoluted neocortex of mammals, which we use for abstract thought and language. Instead, the crocodilian brain is streamlined, prioritizing areas like the olfactory bulb for smell and the amygdala for emotional processing, particularly fear, aggression, and survival-based memory.
At the heart of the crocodile's ability to hold a grudge is the amygdala. This evolutionarily ancient structure is responsible for processing emotions and, crucially, linking those emotions to long-term memory. When a crocodile experiences a threatening or traumatic event, its amygdala lights up, releasing a cascade of neurochemicals that stamp the details of that event deep into its neural pathways. It is a highly efficient system. Instead of remembering everything, the brain remembers exactly what poses a danger to its survival.
When we think of long-term memory in the animal kingdom, we often think of elephants. The saying, "an elephant never forgets," is backed by science, owing to their massive temporal lobes and highly developed cerebrum. But comparing a crocodile's memory to an elephant's is like comparing a specialized supercomputer to a general-purpose laptop. The elephant remembers social bonds, pathways to water, and family histories. The crocodile, on the other hand, remembers survival variables. Who is a threat? Where is the food? And who can be trusted?
For centuries, science dismissed reptiles as mindless, cold-blooded killing machines, driven purely by mechanical reflex. They were thought to be incapable of learning, let alone remembering complex human interactions. But modern cognitive biology is shattering this myth. Researchers studying crocodilians have found that they possess learning capabilities that rival birds and mammals, demonstrating that their ancient minds are far more flexible than we ever imagined. How do crocodiles form these long-lasting grudges? It all comes down to associative learning. This is the process by which an organism learns to associate a specific stimulus with a particular outcome. If a human wearing a specific uniform or possessing a distinct scent inflicts pain or distress on a crocodile, the reptile's brain immediately links those sensory inputs to the intense survival response triggered by the amygdala. In controlled scientific studies, researchers have tested the ability of crocodilians to recognize individual humans. By presenting crocodiles with different handlers, some of whom provided food and others who performed stressful medical checkups, scientists observed a stark contrast in behavior. The crocodiles quickly learned to distinguish between the individuals, displaying calm behavior around the feeders and highly defensive or aggressive postures the moment the threat handler entered the room. Crocodiles have exceptional vision, particularly in low light conditions. Their eyes are equipped with a high density of receptors that allow them to perceive fine details, movements, and even subtle differences in human body shape and facial structures. When they look at a human, they are not just seeing a generic shape. They are cataloging specific visual markers, creating a unique visual profile of that individual in their memory bank. But it isn't just about what they see. Crocodiles are incredibly sensitive to sound and vibrations. They can distinguish the unique acoustic signature of a specific person's footsteps. A study conducted at a reptile park showed that resident crocodiles could identify the walking cadence of their primary keeper from dozens of feet away, showing anticipation of food, while reacting with extreme caution to the heavier, unfamiliar steps of tourists. When a crocodile experiences trauma, its body is flooded with stress hormones like corticosterone, the reptilian equivalent of cortisol, along with adrenaline. These chemicals do more than just prepare the body for immediate action. They act as powerful neural cement. They strengthen the synaptic connections formed during the traumatic event, making the resulting memory incredibly resistant to fading. This chemical reaction ensures that the danger is remembered for a lifetime.
To truly understand the depth of crocodilian memory and their capacity to associate humans with specific emotional states, we must look at the legendary story of Pocho and Cheeto. In Costa Rica, a local fisherman named Cheeto found a giant crocodile shot in the eye, dying on a riverbank. Instead of leaving him, Cheeto brought the crocodile home, feeding him, nursing him back to health over many months, and naming him Pocho. When Pocho finally recovered, Cheeto tried to release him back into the wild. But the next morning, Cheeto woke up to find the giant crocodile sleeping outside his veranda. Pocho had chosen to stay. For over 20 years, the two shared an extraordinary bond, swimming, playing, and trusting each other completely. This remarkable case study proved to the world that crocodiles are capable of forming deep, positive, long-term associations with specific humans. Skeptics often argue that Pocho's behavior was simply advanced habituation, that he merely associated Cheeto with food. However, behavioral experts noted that Pocho would refuse food from other humans and would only interact playfully when Cheeto was in the water with him. This selective behavior indicates a level of individual recognition and trust that goes far beyond simple food association, demonstrating a sophisticated memory system capable of distinguishing between friend and foe. But if a crocodile can remember kindness, it can remember cruelty with equal, if not greater, intensity. In many regions where crocodiles coexist with humans, local guides and researchers have reported instances of crocodiles targeting specific individuals who had previously attempted to capture, relocate, or harm them. These animals don't just react to immediate threats, they harbor a silent, calculating grudge that can wait for years for the perfect moment to strike. To understand how they execute these grudges, we must look at their sensory hardware. Crocodiles possess tiny dome-like structures on their skin called integumentary sensory organs, or ISOs. These microsensory domes are far more sensitive than human fingertips. They can detect microscopic vibrations and chemical changes in the water, allowing the crocodile to map its environment and identify who is approaching long before they can even see them. A crocodile's chemosensory system is another critical tool in its memory apparatus. By drawing water and air through their nasal cavities, they can detect the unique chemical signature of a specific human sweat and pheromones. Once a threat's chemical profile is logged into their memory during a high-stress encounter, the crocodile can identify that same individual from a significant distance, even if the person is wearing a disguise. Ground vibrations travel fast,
and crocodiles are masters at reading them. Their lower jaw, which often rests against the ground or the water's surface, acts as a highly sensitive seismograph. It picks up the low-frequency vibrations created by a person walking. Because every human has a unique gait, weight distribution, and pace, a crocodile can memorize the specific seismic footprint of someone who has wronged them, preparing its defense long in advance.
For a long time, it was believed that reptilian brains lacked neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize and form new neural connections throughout life. However, recent neurological breakthroughs have revealed that crocodilian brains are remarkably plastic. This means they are constantly rewriting their neural maps based on new experiences. If an environment becomes hostile, their brains physically adapt to prioritize threat detection, cementing negative memories even deeper.
Researchers have also conducted cognitive color association tests with crocodilians. In these trials, crocodiles were trained to associate specific colors with food rewards, and others with neutral or mildly unpleasant stimuli, like water sprays. Not only did the crocodiles learn the associations within a few trials, but they also retained this knowledge for months without any refresher training, proving their long-term cognitive memory is exceptionally robust. Why did evolution gift the crocodile with such a long-lasting memory for threats? The answer lies in evolutionary survival. In the harsh, highly competitive prehistoric world, forgetting a predator, a dangerous territory, or a successful hunting strategy meant death. A long-term memory that prioritized threat association was the ultimate shield against extinction, allowing them to navigate changing environments and new predators across epochs. In the modern era, this ancient memory system directly impacts human-crocodile conflict. In areas where crocodiles are hunted or captured for relocation, they become incredibly wary of humans. A crocodile that has escaped a trap once is almost impossible to catch again using the same method. They remember the structure of the trap, the scent of the bait, and the presence of humans, adapting their behavior to avoid the danger entirely. Wildlife biologists often struggle with what they call trap-shy crocodiles. Once an individual experiences the stress of capture, its brain links the visual and olfactory features of the trap to the trauma of being restrained. This learned aversion can last for decades. The crocodile teaches itself to recognize the subtle signs of human interference, turning what was once an easy capture into a battle of wits that humans rarely win. This deep memory capacity has led to significant changes in commercial crocodile farming and conservation sanctuaries. To reduce chronic stress in captive animals, facilities now employ cognitive conditioning. By keeping handling practices highly predictable and positive, and using standardized uniforms for peaceful staff, they prevent the crocodiles from entering a state of constant survival alert, resulting in healthier, calmer animals. However, we must never confuse habituation or trust with domestication. Domestication is a genetic process that takes thousands of years, altering the brain chemistry of a species to make them naturally cooperative with humans. A crocodile remains a wild predator to its core. Even if it remembers you as a source of food or safety, its instinctual prey drive can be triggered in a split second by a sudden movement, a change in health, or extreme hunger. Is it possible that crocodiles also possess genetic memory? Some evolutionary biologists theorize that certain fundamental fears, such as the avoidance of specific large predators or toxic prey, are hard-coded into their DNA over millions of generations. When combined with their powerful individual memory, this evolutionary inheritance creates a creature that is incredibly resilient, possessing both ancient instincts and modern learning capabilities.
To prove these cognitive theories, modern science has turned to advanced neuroimaging. By placing sedated crocodiles in functional MRI machines and exposing them to various auditory and visual stimuli, such as human voices, predator calls, and familiar sounds, scientists can see exactly which parts of their ancient brains light up, providing concrete evidence of complex sensory and emotional processing.
While we often lump alligators and crocodiles together, their cognitive behaviors have slight differences. Alligators, generally living in more temperate and less competitive environments, tend to show slightly milder territorial aggression and faster habituation to human presence. Crocodiles, hailing from highly competitive tropical ecosystems where survival is a daily battle, tend to have a sharper defensive edge and a more intense memory for threats. When we synthesize everything we know about crocodilian biology, neuroanatomy, and behavioral ecology, a clear picture emerges. The crocodile is not a fossilized mistake of evolution. It is a highly optimized survivor whose cognitive abilities are perfectly tailored to its environment. Their long-term memory is a vital survival tool, allowing them to assess risk with surgical precision based on past encounters.
So, do crocodiles forgive? The scientific answer is practically never. If you represent a threat, their ancient, survival-driven brains will store your profile in their memory indefinitely, ready to react the next time you cross paths. It is a testament to their evolutionary success. To coexist with these magnificent, ancient predators, we must respect not just their immense physical power, but the sharp, enduring intelligence that has kept them on this earth for 200 million years.